For 4 groundbreaking years, The Flip Wilson Show brought joy and revolutionary representation to American television, with Flip Wilson becoming TV's first black superstar. Behind the iconic catchphrases and beloved characters were talented performers who helped shape comedy history. Yet tragedy has claimed several of these entertainers far too soon, silencing voices that once filled living rooms with laughter and broke down barriers with every performance. Flip Wilson wasn't just the host of The Flip Wilson Show, he was a trailblazer who changed television forever. When his variety show premiered on NBC in September 1970, Wilson became the first African American to successfully host a primetime variety series that attracted massive audiences across all racial lines. His groundbreaking success opened doors that had been firmly closed and proved that black entertainers could be major television stars without compromising their identity or cultural roots. Born Clara Wilson Jr. on December 8, 1933, in Jersey City, New Jersey, Wilson's early life was marked by poverty and abandonment. When he was just 7 years old, his mother left the family and his father struggled to care for 10 children during the Great Depression. Wilson bounced between foster homes and reform schools before lying about his age at 16 to join the United States Air Force. It was during his military service that fellow airmen gave him the nickname Flip because of his outrageous, flipped-out stories and jokes that kept everyone entertained. After his discharge in 1954, Wilson worked as a bellhop at a San Francisco hotel while developing his comedy act in small clubs. He spent years performing on the so-called Chitlin circuit, playing to predominantly black audiences in nightclubs across the country. His big break came in 1965 when comedian Red Fox appeared on The Tonight Show and told Johnny Carson that Flip Wilson was the funniest comedian around. Carson booked Wilson on his show, and television audiences immediately fell in love with his warm personality and brilliant character work. Wilson's variety show became a cultural phenomenon, reaching number 2 in the Nielsen ratings during its peak years. His most famous creation was Geraldine Jones, a sassy, liberated woman who delivered catchphrases that became part of everyday American language. "What you see is what you get," and "The devil made me do it," were heard in households across the nation. Wilson also created Reverend Leroy of the Church of What's Happening Now, a character that showcased his ability to find humor in everyday life while respecting his audience's intelligence. The show earned Wilson 2 Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe, and Time magazine featured him on their cover in 1972, calling him TV's first black superstar. Wilson made the conscious decision to end his show in 1974 while it was still popular, wanting to spend more time with his children and having already achieved financial security through smart investments. In October 1998, Wilson underwent surgery for a malignant tumor near his liver. Despite initial optimism, the cancer had already spread throughout his body. On November 25, 1998, Wilson died peacefully at his Malibu home at age 64, surrounded by family. His death marked the end of an era, but his influence on comedy and television continues to inspire performers today who follow the path he courageously carved. George Carlin. George Carlin brought his razor-sharp wit and groundbreaking comedy to The Flip Wilson Show as both a frequent guest performer and one of the show's writers. His appearances on Wilson's variety series helped showcase a different side of his talent, working alongside Wilson to expand Carlin's famous news, weather, sports satire segments that became fan favorites. Carlin's contributions to the show demonstrated his versatility as a performer who could adapt his edgy comedy style to fit television's broader audience while still maintaining his unique voice and perspective. Born George Dennis Patrick Carlin on May 12, 1937, in the Bronx, New York, he grew up in a working-class Irish Catholic family. His father left when Carlin was young, and he was raised primarily by his mother in Manhattan's Morningside Heights neighborhood. After dropping out of high school and serving briefly in the Air Force, Carlin began his entertainment career as a radio disc jockey in Ohio before moving to California to pursue stand-up comedy in the early 1960s. Carlin initially performed as part of a clean-cut comedy duo with Jack Burns, appearing regularly on The Tonight Show and other television programs throughout the decade. However, by the early 1970s, he had undergone a dramatic transformation, growing his hair long, adopting a counterculture appearance, and developing the controversial thought-provoking comedy style that would define the rest of his career. This evolution coincided with his work on The Flip Wilson Show, where he balanced his emerging edge with television-friendly material. His most famous routine, 7 Words You Can Never Say on Television, became the center of a landmark Supreme Court case in 1978 when the Federal Communications Commission cited a radio station for broadcasting the bit. The case established the government's authority to regulate indecent content on public airwaves. Carlin went on to record 23 comedy albums, win 5 Grammy Awards, and perform in 14 HBO specials that cemented his reputation as one of America's greatest social commentators and philosophical comedians. Throughout his later career, Carlin battled various heart problems, including multiple heart attacks, angioplasties, and other cardiac procedures. Despite these health challenges, he maintained an exhausting touring schedule and continued writing new material well into his 70s. His final HBO special, It's Bad for Ya, was filmed just 4 months before his death and won a posthumous Grammy Award. On June 22, 2008, Carlin performed what would be his final show at the Orleans Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. 1 week later, he was admitted to St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California, complaining of chest pain. He died that evening from heart failure at age 71. Carlin's influence on comedy and free speech continues to resonate today, inspiring countless performers who admire his courage to challenge social conventions and his dedication to the craft of comedy. Red Fox. Red Fox played a crucial role in The Flip Wilson Show, not just as a frequent guest, but as the man who essentially launched Wilson's television career. It was Fox who famously told Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show in 1965 that Flip Wilson was the funniest comedian around, leading Carson to book Wilson and setting him on the path to stardom. When Fox appeared on Wilson's variety show, audiences witnessed the mutual respect between 2 groundbreaking black comedians who had both fought to succeed in an industry that offered them limited opportunities. Born John Elroy Sanford on December 9th, 1922 in St. Louis, Missouri, Fox grew up in extreme poverty before moving to Chicago at age 13 to join a street band where he played the washboard. He eventually made his way to New York City, supporting himself by washing dishes while trying to break into show business. During this time, he befriended Malcolm Little, who would later become known as Malcolm X, and earned the nickname Red because of his reddish hair and light complexion. He later changed it to Red Fox, taking his stage surname from baseball player Jimmy Fox. Fox spent years performing on the Chitlin circuit, developing his raunchy, no-holds-barred comedy style in nightclubs that catered to black audiences. He became known as the King of the Party Records for his series of adult comedy albums that were too explicit for white record stores but sold millions of copies in black communities. His groundbreaking recordings in the 1950s and 60s broke new ground for blue humor and influenced countless comedians who followed, including Richard Pryor, who cited Fox as a major inspiration. In 1972, producer Norman Lear adapted the British sitcom Steptoe and Son for American television, casting Fox as Fred Sanford, a cantankerous junk dealer in Watts, Los Angeles. Sanford and Son became a massive hit and made Fox a household name, running for 6 seasons and showcasing his ability to bring both humor and humanity to his characters. The show's success proved that black-centered comedy could attract mainstream audiences and pave the way for future sitcoms. Despite his success, Fox faced serious financial troubles throughout his later career. The Internal Revenue Service seized his home and possessions in 1989 for unpaid taxes totaling nearly $1 million. By 1991, he was working again, starring alongside Della Reese in a new CBS sitcom called The Royal Family, produced by Eddie Murphy. On October 11, 1991, while rehearsing for The Royal Family at Paramount Studios, Fox suddenly collapsed from a massive heart attack. Because he was known for his physical comedy and practical jokes, the cast and crew initially thought he was performing a bit and laughed at what they believed was another one of his routines. When they realized he was genuinely in distress, paramedics rushed him to Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital, where he was pronounced dead that evening at age 68. Fox's tragic death highlighted how his comedic persona had become so larger than life that even his final moments were mistaken for performance. A fitting but heartbreaking end for a man who had dedicated his life to making others laugh. Tim Conway. Tim Conway brought his masterful physical comedy and impeccable timing to The Flip Wilson Show as a regular guest performer, delighting audiences with his ability to turn simple situations into hilarious moments through subtle expressions and perfectly timed movements. His appearances on Wilson's variety show demonstrated his remarkable talent for making fellow performers break character, often causing Wilson himself to struggle not to laugh during their sketches together. Conway's presence on the show helped establish him as one of television's most beloved comedic actors, and showcased his gift for creating memorable characters that audiences would remember long after the credits rolled. Born Thomas Daniel Conway on December 15, 1933, in Willoughby, Ohio, he grew up in a working-class family and discovered his comedic abilities early in life. Conway later said he became the class clown as a survival mechanism because he was small for his age and figured being funny was better than getting beaten up. After attending Bowling Green State University and serving in the Army, he began his entertainment career working at a local television station in Cleveland, where he performed comedy sketches and developed the characters that would later make him famous. Conway's big break came when he joined the cast of the 1960 sitcom McHale's Navy, playing the bumbling Ensign Charles Parker alongside Ernest Borgnine. His portrayal of the well-meaning but incompetent officer earned him his first Emmy nomination in 1963 and established him as a gifted character actor. However, it was his work on The Carol Burnett Show that truly made him a household name, where he became known for creating characters like the painfully slow old man and the accident-prone Mr. Tuball, whose thick accent and interactions with his secretary became comedy gold. Conway's greatest talent was his ability to improvise during live tapings, often departing from the script to create spontaneous moments that would send his co-stars, particularly Harvey Korman, into fits of uncontrollable laughter. His famous dentist sketch, where he accidentally injects himself with Novocaine instead of his patient, caused Korman to laugh so hard that he visibly wet himself on camera. Conway won 6 Emmy Awards throughout his career and continued working well into his 80s. Voicing Barnacle Boy on SpongeBob SquarePants and making guest appearances on various television shows. In his later years, Conway began showing signs of dementia caused by normal pressure hydrocephalus, a condition where excess fluid builds up in the brain's ventricles. The condition affected his memory and motor skills, and he required surgery to have a ventricular shunt implanted to help drain the fluid. His family became involved in a legal battle over his care, with his daughter Kelly seeking conservatorship, while his wife Charlene wanted to maintain control of his medical decisions. On May 14, 2019, Conway died peacefully at his Los Angeles area home from complications related to his condition. He was 85 years old and was surrounded by his wife and children at the time of his death. Conway's passing marked the end of an era for television comedy, as he represented a style of gentle, family-friendly humor that brought joy to multiple generations without relying on shock value or controversy. His legacy lives on through the countless performers he influenced and the timeless sketches that continue to make audiences laugh decades after they were first performed. Ruth Buzzi. Ruth Buzzi brought her exceptional character work and physical comedy skills to The Flip Wilson Show as a frequent guest performer, showcasing the versatility that had made her a star on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. Her appearances on Wilson's variety show allowed her to display different sides of her comedic talent beyond her famous Gladys Ormsby character, proving she could adapt her performances to fit various comedy styles while maintaining her unique ability to create memorable, quirky personalities. Buzzi's presence on the show added another layer of professional excellence to Wilson's already impressive roster of regular guests, and helped cement her status as one of television's most reliable comedic performers. Born Ruth Ann Buzzi on July 24, 1936, in Westerly, Rhode Island, she grew up in a creative household where her father was a nationally recognized stone sculptor who had immigrated from Switzerland. Buzzi attended Stonington High School in Connecticut, where she served as head cheerleader before enrolling at the Pasadena Playhouse College of Theater Arts in California at age 17. Even before graduating with honors in 1957, she had already earned her Actors Equity Association union card by working with singer Rudy Vallee during summer breaks from college. After moving to New York City, Boosie quickly found work in off-Broadway musical revues and television commercials, some of which won national awards, including the prestigious Clio Award. She performed alongside other young entertainers just starting their careers, including Barbra Streisand, Joan Rivers, Dom DeLuise, and Carol Burnett. Her big break came when she was cast in the original Broadway production of Sweet Charity in 1966, playing multiple small roles alongside Gwen Verdon before television opportunities began calling. Buzzie's career reached new heights when she joined Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In in 1968, becoming the only cast member to appear in every episode of the show's 6-season run. Her most famous creation was Gladys Ormsby, a dour spinster who sat on park benches and violently attacked men who made advances toward her, usually with her oversized purse. The character became an unexpected feminist icon during the women's liberation movement, representing a woman who refused to tolerate unwanted attention. Her work on Laugh-In earned her a Golden Globe Award in 1973 and 5 Emmy nominations. Following Laugh-In, Buzzie continued working steadily in television, films, and voiceover work, including a recurring role as shopkeeper Ruthie on Sesame Street in the 1990s, and voicing characters in animated series like the Berenstain Bears and Pound Puppies. She remained active in entertainment well into her 80s, performing in Las Vegas and making television appearances until her retirement in 2021. In 2012, Boosie was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and her condition gradually worsened over the following years. In 2022, she suffered a series of strokes that further weakened her health, requiring her to enter hospice care at her ranch home near Stephenville, Texas, where she lived with her husband of over 40 years, Kent Perkins. On May 1, 2025, Boosie died peacefully in her sleep at age 88, surrounded by her loving family. Her death marked the end of an era for sketch comedy, as she represented a generation of performers who could create instantly recognizable characters that became part of American popular culture for decades. Roy Clark. Roy Clark brought his extraordinary musical talents to The Flip Wilson Show as a guest performer, dazzling television audiences with his virtuoso guitar and banjo, playing that demonstrated why he was considered one of the greatest instrumentalists in country music history. His appearances on Wilson's variety show helped introduce country music to viewers who might not have otherwise been exposed to the genre, showcasing Clark's ability to make complex musical performances look effortless, while maintaining his warm, down-to-earth personality that made him instantly likable. Clark's presence on the show represented the kind of crossover appeal that helped break down barriers between different musical styles and audiences during the early 1970s. Born Roy Linwood Clark on April 15, 1933, in Meherrin, Virginia, he grew up in a musical family where his father played banjo, fiddle, and guitar while his mother played piano. The family moved to Washington, D.C. when Clark was 11 years old, and it was there that his father taught him to play guitar at age 14. Clark quickly mastered multiple instruments, showing a natural talent that impressed local musicians who would later influence his development as a performer. He often said that guitar was his true love, and he was particularly influenced by George Barnes, whose swing style and tone became a major inspiration for Clark's own playing. Clark's professional career began in the late 1950s when he started appearing on local television shows in the Washington area, eventually landing spots on national programs like The Tonight Show and American Bandstand. His big break came in 1960 when he opened for country star Wanda Jackson in Las Vegas, leading to his first recording contract with Capitol Records and the release of his album The Lightning Fingers of Roy Clark. He scored his first major hit in 1963 with Tips of My Fingers, and continued building his reputation as both a recording artist and live performer throughout the decade. In 1969, Clark teamed up with Buck Owens to host the syndicated comedy variety show Hee Haw, which became one of the longest-running programs in television history. The show, which combined country music performances with corny jokes and rural-themed comedy sketches, made Clark a household name and helped popularize country music with mainstream audiences. Clark remained with Hee Haw for its entire 28-year run, even after Owens left in 1986, and the show's success allowed him to become one of the first entertainers to establish a permanent venue in Branson, Missouri, opening the Roy Clark Celebrity Theater in 1983. Throughout his career, Clark won numerous awards, including a Grammy Award for Alabama Jubilee in 1982, and he was named Entertainer of the Year by both the Academy of Country Music and the Country Music Association multiple times during the 1970s. He was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2009, cementing his legacy as one of the genre's most important figures. In his later years, Clark's health began to decline, and he underwent hip replacement surgery in 2005, followed by spine surgery 2 years later. Despite these challenges, he continued performing and making personal appearances until his final years. On November 15, 2018, Clark died at his home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, from complications related to pneumonia at age 85. His death marked the end of an era for country music, as he has served as both an ambassador for the genre and a bridge between traditional country sounds and mainstream popular entertainment, inspiring countless musicians who continue to carry on his legacy of musical excellence and genuine warmth. Dom DeLuise. Dom DeLuise brought his naturally warm personality and infectious sense of humor to the Flip Wilson Show as a guest performer, creating an instant chemistry with Wilson that delighted television audiences and showcased his remarkable ability to make everyone around him feel comfortable and happy. His appearances on the variety show demonstrated the generous spirit that made him one of Hollywood's most beloved figures, as he seemed genuinely thrilled to be entertaining people and never appeared to be working for laughs, but rather sharing joy with both his fellow performers and the viewing audience. DeLuise's presence on Wilson's show helped establish him as a versatile entertainer who could adapt his comedy style to different formats while maintaining the authentic warmth that became his trademark. Born Dominic DeLuise on August 1, 1933, in Brooklyn, New York, he grew up in an Italian-American family where his father worked as a garbage collector and spoke only Italian, while his mother was a homemaker who encouraged her son's early interest in performing. DeLuise attended Manhattan's High School of Performing Arts, where he developed his acting skills before briefly studying at Tufts University with the idea of becoming a teacher. However, his passion for entertainment proved too strong to ignore, and he left college to pursue his dreams in show business, eventually finding work at the Cleveland Playhouse, where he spent 2 years learning his craft and productions ranging from Shakespeare to musical comedies. DeLuise's television breakthrough came in the early 1960s when he was discovered by producer Greg Garrison, who hired him to appear on The Dean Martin Show as a recurring character called Dominic the Great, a bumbling magician whose tricks always went hilariously wrong. His signature catchphrase, delivered in a thick Italian accent, was "No applause please, save to the end," and his interactions with Dean Martin as the bemused volunteer from the audience became a highlight of the show. This exposure led to his own short-lived variety series in 1968 and numerous guest appearances on other television programs. DeLuise became closely associated with director Mel Brooks, appearing in several of his most popular films, including Blazing Saddles, Silent Movie, History of the World Part 1, and Spaceballs. He also developed a close friendship with Burt Reynolds, appearing in many of his movies such as the Cannonball Run series and Smokey and the Bandit 2. Beyond his live-action work, DeLuise found success as a voice actor in animated films, most notably as Jeremy the Crow in The Secret of NIMH and in several Don Bluth productions that introduced him to younger audiences. In addition to his entertainment career, DeLuise was an accomplished cook and cookbook author, writing Eat This and Eat This Too, while making frequent appearances on morning television shows to share his favorite recipes. He battled weight problems throughout his life, at one point reaching 325 pounds before agreeing to lose weight for necessary hip replacement surgery in 1993. During his final years, DeLuise faced multiple health challenges, including cancer, high blood pressure, and diabetes, conditions that were complicated by his ongoing struggle with obesity. In December 2008, he revealed during a television interview that he had been fighting prostate cancer but remained optimistic about his condition. On May 4, 2009, DeLuise died peacefully in his sleep from kidney failure at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California, at age 75, surrounded by his wife Carol and their 3 sons. His death was mourned by countless friends and colleagues who remembered him not just as a talented performer, but as a genuinely kind person whose greatest joy came from making others laugh and feel loved. Bobby Darin. Bobby Darin appeared on The Flip Wilson Show during the peak of his extraordinary career, bringing his dynamic stage presence and remarkable vocal abilities to Wilson's variety series at a time when he was one of America's biggest entertainment stars. His performances on the show demonstrated the incredible versatility that had made him successful across multiple musical genres, from rock and roll to jazz standards to country music, while his natural charisma and showmanship perfectly complemented Wilson's warm hosting style. Darin's appearances on the program were particularly poignant because they captured him at the height of his fame, yet audiences had no idea they were watching a performer who was secretly battling a life-threatening heart condition that would claim his life far too soon. Born Walden Robert Casoto on May 14, 1936, in the Bronx, New York, Darin grew up believing his grandmother was his mother and that his actual mother was his older sister, a family secret designed to protect his mother from the scandal of having a child out of wedlock as a teenager. This shocking revelation wouldn't be discovered until Darin was 32 years old, adding another layer of complexity to a life already marked by health struggles. At age 8, Darin contracted rheumatic fever, which severely damaged his heart and led doctors to predict he would not live past his teenage years. This grim prognosis drove Darin to pursue his dreams with an urgency and determination that characterized his entire career. Darin burst onto the music scene in 1958 with his self-penned hit, Splish Splash, which he reportedly wrote in just 12 minutes and which sold over 1 million copies, establishing him as a major recording artist while he was still in his early 20s. He followed this success with Dream Lover and then achieved his greatest triumph with his swinging version of Mac the Knife, which reached #1 on the charts and won him 2 Grammy Awards, including Record of the Year. His ability to cross over between different musical styles made him unique among his contemporaries, as he could perform teen-oriented rock and roll one night and sophisticated jazz standards the next. Beyond his musical success, Darin proved himself as a talented actor, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor in 1963 for his role in Captain Newman, M.D., alongside Gregory Peck. He also starred in his own television variety shows and became a fixture in Las Vegas, where his energetic performances and finger-snapping style made him a major draw. His personal life was equally high profile, particularly his marriage to actress Sandra Dee in 1960, which made them one of Hollywood's golden couples before their divorce in 1967. In January 1971, Darin underwent major open heart surgery to replace 2 damaged heart valves with artificial ones, a risky procedure that kept him hospitalized for weeks. He made a remarkable recovery and returned to performing, but his health remained fragile. In 1973, after failing to take antibiotics to prevent infection before a routine dental procedure, Darin developed a severe systemic infection that damaged one of his artificial heart valves. On December 11, 1973, Darin checked himself into Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles for surgery to repair the damaged valve. On December 19, a team of 4 surgeons worked for over 6 hours to fix his heart, but the operation proved too much for his weakened body. Darin died in the recovery room early the next morning without ever regaining consciousness. He was just 37 years old. Following his wishes, his body was donated to medical science at UCLA Medical Center. Darin's death robbed the entertainment world of one of its most dynamic performers, a man who had packed several lifetimes of achievement into his brief but brilliant career.